Tulsa King Season 3 is shaping up to be one of the most intriguing chapters in Dwight Manfredi's story. And one of the biggest questions fans are asking is this: what exactly does Musso mean for Dwight? And how will their uneasy relationship change the direction of the show? We've seen Dwight adapt to new challenges, forge alliances when necessary, and stay true to his ideals even when the world around him is crumbling. But this particular partnership feels different. It's not about friendship, it's not about loyalty, it's about survival, power, and the dangerous game of trust in a world where betrayal is always lurking around the corner. So let's dive deep into what this really means for Dwight and Musso's dynamic, how it could evolve throughout Season 3, and why this unlikely alliance may become the beating heart of the next chapter in Tulsa King. From the very beginning, Dwight Manfredi has stood out as a character defined by two seemingly opposite qualities: his sense of loyalty and his ability to adapt when the world gives him no other choice. He's a man who believes in principles, family, respect, a certain old-school code of honor, but he's also someone who knows the cost of holding too tightly to those ideals. After all, this is a guy who spent 25 years in prison because he took the fall for his family, only to return and realize that the very people he sacrificed for had written him off. Season 1 made it clear that Dwight doesn't have the luxury of blind loyalty anymore, and yet he can't abandon his code entirely. That tension is what makes him fascinating, and it's exactly why his relationship with Musso is going to matter so much moving forward. Now, when we talk about alliances in Tulsa King, it's important to understand that most of them are built on one thing: mutually assured destruction. Nobody really trusts anybody else. Instead, they recognize that it's safer to work together than to tear each other apart, at least for now. Dwight and Musso's partnership looks like it'll follow that same pattern. On the surface, they're adversaries. Musso is sharp, calculating, and ambitious in his own right. Dwight, on the other hand, doesn't easily let outsiders in, especially after Stacy's betrayal, which left him questioning who he could rely on. So right away, we can see that this relationship won't be warm or easy. But here's the twist: sometimes those uneasy alliances are the most powerful because they're not built on emotion but on necessity, and that's where things get really interesting. Paulak's recent comments about Dwight and Musso's dynamic give us a glimpse into what we can expect in Season 3. He described their relationship as adversarial, but also hinted at a sense of banter, a kind of back and forth that's less about hatred and more about two strong personalities colliding. That's fascinating because it means their partnership won't just be about business deals or strategies. It's also about ego, pride, and this ongoing test of who's really in control. They'll trade pot shots, they'll challenge each other, but underneath it all, they'll still lean on one another because neither can afford to go it alone. Think about it. Dwight has already lost a lot of his support system. Chickie's death creates a massive power vacuum in New York, and while that might mean fewer immediate threats from the Invernizzi family, it doesn't mean Dwight is safe. Far from it. His empire in Tulsa is still fragile, and there are always going to be new sharks circling, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Musso steps into that picture as someone who can not only help Dwight keep things stable, but also act as a counterweight against enemies Dwight doesn't even see coming yet. But here's the kicker: Dwight knows better than anyone that alliances in this world come with strings attached. Musso isn't helping Dwight out of the kindness of his heart. He's got his own ambitions, his own reasons for keeping Dwight close. Maybe it's about gaining influence, maybe it's about protecting his own turf, or maybe it's about studying Dwight up close before eventually trying to outmaneuver him. The beauty of this setup is that both men are constantly sizing each other up, trying to figure out just how far they can trust the other. That tension will fuel a lot of the drama in Season 3, and honestly, that's what makes Tulsa King so good. It's not just about the shootouts, the power moves, or the mob politics. It's about relationships. It's about the way people who should never get along end up working side by side because the alternative is worse. In Dwight and Musso's case, it's like watching two chess masters forced to share the same board. Every move one of them makes will be carefully studied by the other, and every decision will come with risks. Will Dwight try to use Musso as a shield against his enemies? Will Musso quietly manipulate Dwight into making choices that benefit him more than they benefit Dwight? Those are the questions that will keep audiences hooked week after week. But let's zoom out for a second, because there's a bigger point here. Dwight's whole story has been about the shifting meaning of family trust and survival. He went to prison for a family that abandoned him. He built a new family in Tulsa, but even that foundation is shaky. Stacy turned on him, and some of his allies are more interested in self-preservation than loyalty. Musso then becomes a kind of test for Dwight. Can he create a bond, however fragile, with someone who isn't pretending to be loyal but is openly keeping things transactional? Can Dwight survive in a world where the old rules of family and honor don't apply anymore, where every alliance is temporary and every friend could be tomorrow's enemy? If you really think about it, Musso is almost like a mirror for Dwight. Both are pragmatic, both understand the power game, and both are willing to bend their ideals if it means surviving another day. The difference is that Dwight still carries that old-school sense of loyalty deep in his bones, while Musso seems far more comfortable with the gray areas. Watching them clash over that difference is going to be electric, and make no mistake, this isn't just a subplot. The Dwight-Musso relationship could very well define the direction of the entire season. We've already seen how much Tulsa King thrives when Dwight is forced into uncomfortable partnerships. Look back at his relationship with Mitch Keller in Season 1. Mitch wasn't exactly thrilled to get tangled up in Dwight's business, but their uneasy alliance became one of the show's strongest storylines. The same thing could happen here, except on a much larger scale. Here's where things get spicy. Because while Dwight and Musso may spend most of the season trading barbs and navigating their fragile alliance, the real drama might come when one of them inevitably betrays the other, or at least tries to. Fans of mob dramas know this pattern well. Alliances are temporary, betrayals are inevitable, and the only question is who strikes first. Imagine Dwight finally starting to trust Musso, only for Musso to make a move that undercuts him. Or imagine Musso relying too heavily on Dwight, only for Dwight to outmaneuver him in the end. Either way, the fallout would be explosive, and it could reshape the entire power structure of Tulsa by the time Season 3 wraps up. So what does this mean for us as viewers? It means we're about to get some of the richest, most complex storytelling Tulsa King has offered so far. The Dwight-Musso dynamic isn't just about two men working together. It's about survival, about the shifting meaning of loyalty, and about the constant tension between trust and betrayal. It's about watching Dwight evolve once again, as he's forced to walk that razor-thin line between holding on to his ideals and doing whatever it takes to keep his empire alive. And that's the hook that will keep fans glued to their screens. Because in a world like Tulsa King, survival isn't about being the strongest or even the smartest. It's about knowing who to trust, when to trust them, and how to protect yourself when that trust inevitably breaks. Dwight and Musso may lean on each other heavily in Season 3, but make no mistake, they're not friends, they're not family, and they're not partners in the traditional sense. They're survivors. And as the season unfolds, the question won't just be whether they can work together, it'll be whether either of them can survive the other. So as we look ahead to Season 3, one thing is clear. The Dwight-Musso relationship is going to be one of the most compelling storylines in the entire show. It has everything: tension, humor, banter, mistrust, and the constant threat of betrayal. And in a series like Tulsa King, that's the perfect recipe for explosive drama.